First Speaker Nixis stood at the observation deck of the last light, her crystalline hands pressed against the transparent barrier as she watched another settlement fall to the swarm. The neural networks that connected all Tellurians pulsed with collective grief as thousands more minds went silent. Their homeworld, Crystallos, once a beacon of beauty with its crystalline spires and floating gardens, now lay fractured and burning. First Speaker, Sentinel Oryx approached, his usually luminescent form dimmed with exhaustion. The evacuation ships. They didn't make it. The swarm's bioships intercepted them in the upper atmosphere. Nixis's inner light flickered, the Tellurian equivalent of a shudder. How many? 8,000 civilians, mostly younglings and their caretakers. The neural network rippled with renewed anguish. Nixis forced herself to remain steady, though her crystalline form threatened to crack under the emotional strain. Their civilization, built over millennia of peaceful advancement and scientific achievement, was crumbling before the mindless hunger of the swarm. The Defense Council awaits, First Speaker, Oryx continued. There, they're discussing surrender. Surrender? Nixis turned sharply, her crystalline form catching the light of their dying sun. The swarm doesn't accept surrender, Oryx. They consume. They destroy. They move on. That's all they know. They made their way to the council chamber, a once grand hall now serving as their last command center. The remaining council members, only 7 where there should have been 20, gathered around the holographic display showing their world's dire situation. Red markers indicated swarm hives spreading like a cancer across their planet's surface. Chief Researcher Lumina approached, her usual bright glow now barely a flicker. First Speaker, I've completed the analysis of the swarm's evolution rate. They're adapting to our crystalline technology faster than we can develop countermeasures. Our phase shift barriers, our resonance weapons, they're becoming less effective with each engagement. Nixis absorbed this information, letting it flow through the neural network. Their people's greatest strength, their shared consciousness and instant communication, now amplified their collective despair. Yet within that despair, she felt something else. Determination. There is one option we haven't considered, she said, drawing all eyes to her. The beacon. The chamber fell silent. The beacon was their most ancient artifact, predating even their earliest records. Its origin was unknown, its purpose mysterious. Their ancestors had discovered it buried deep within the crystal cores of their world, its power source still active after untold eons. The beacon has never been tested. Council Elder Prism warned. We don't even know if it works, let alone who or what might answer. We're beyond the luxury of certainty, Nixis replied. Our fleet is in ruins. Our barriers are failing. The swarm has already consumed 3 neighboring systems. If we don't try something now, there won't be anything left to save. She approached the beacon's control interface, its surface reflecting the ethereal light of their bodies. The device hummed with ancient power, responding to her touch as if it had been waiting for this moment. I, Nixis, First Speaker of the Tellurian Collective. Activate this beacon, she declared, her voice carrying through both air and neural network. To any who can hear, we face extinction. Our world burns. Our people die. The entity we know as the swarm consumes everything in its path. We request. No, we plead for aid. Let our light not go out in the darkness. The beacon pulsed, sending out its signal to the unknown reaches of space. For long moments, nothing happened. The council chamber remained silent save for the distant sounds of battle and destruction. Then a response came. Not through their neural network, not through their quantum communications, but through the beacon itself. A single voice, deep and resolute, spoke words that would change their destiny. Humanity acknowledges your call. We know the swarm. We know their hunger. We know how to end it. Hold your position. We are coming. The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Through the neural network, Nixis felt the mixture of hope and fear from her people. They had called out into the darkness, and something had answered. Something that spoke of the swarm not with fear, but with grim familiarity. First speaker, Oryx whispered, "What have we summoned?" Nyxus stared at the beacon, its ancient surface now quiet once more. "Either our salvation," she replied, "or something that will make us wish we had fallen to the swarm instead." In the space above Christos, the swarm's bioships continued their relentless assault. But now, for the first time since the invasion began, the Tellurians felt something new in their shared consciousness. Hope. Whether that hope was justified or misplaced remained to be seen. Humanity was coming. And with them, the true test of their civilization's survival would begin. Fleet Marshal Theron Blackwood stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the Tellurian home system. Behind him, the combined might of humanity's Outer Rim fleet emerged from hyperspace, 500 warships, each one a testament to humanity's mastery of war. "Signal from the forward scouts, Marshal," Lieutenant Commander Hayes reported. "Swarm presence confirmed. Initial count suggests over 2,000 bioships in orbit, with multiple surface hives established." Blackwood nodded, his cybernetic eye scanning the tactical readouts. The swarm. Humanity's old enemy. They'd fought them before, in the Beta Quadrant, where the insects had learned a harsh lesson about challenging human space. "Deploy the Valkyrie squadrons," he ordered. "Standard containment pattern. And get me a direct link to the Tellurian command." The holographic display shifted, revealing the crystalline form of First Speaker Nyxus. Blackwood had studied the brief on the Tellurians during a hyperspace jump, a crystalline species with shared consciousness, advanced in technology, but inexperienced in war. "First Speaker," he said, "I'm Fleet Marshal Blackwood. Your world is now under human protection. My ships will establish a perimeter and begin immediate counteroffensive operations. I need your people to fall back to your designated safe zones." Nyx's form flickered with what he assumed was surprise. "Marshal, our remaining forces can support." "Negative." Blackwood cut in. "The swarm adapts to any tactics used against them. Your forces have already shown their capabilities. The enemy has adapted. Let them face something new." As if to emphasize his point, the first wave of Valkyrie fighters engaged the swarm. The insectoid bioships moved to intercept, expecting the same crystalline weapons they'd grown resistant to. Instead, they met streams of superheated plasma and quantum-tipped missiles. The void lit up with their deaths. "Begin planetary assault," Blackwood commanded. "All ships, execute Protocol Prometheus." The Nemesis's weapon ports opened, revealing rows of orbital strike cannons. Across the fleet, hundreds of ships followed suit. The swarm would learn, as they had before, that humanity had turned war into an art form. Guardian Captain Raya Steele led her strike team through the burning ruins of what had once been a Tellurian city. Her powered armor, midnight black, and bearing the skull insignia of the Guardian Corps, moved silently despite its imposing size. "Contact. 300 meters," her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jin, reported through the tactical net. "Swarm ground forces. Looks like they're adapting to the local crystal structures." Steele switched to thermal vision, watching as the insectoid creatures burrowed through the crystalline buildings. The swarm's ground troops were evolving, using the very material of Tellurian architecture to strengthen their carapaces. "Clever bugs," she muttered. "But we've seen this before. Deploy the resonator charges. Let's show them why adapting to local materials isn't always smart." Her team moved with practiced precision, placing sonic devices throughout the ruins. Each charge was calibrated to the exact frequency that would shatter the crystal-infused carapaces of the evolved swarm warriors. "First Speaker Nyxus," Steele called through her comm. "I need your people to temporarily disconnect from any crystal structures within a 5-kilometer radius." "It is done," came the reply. "Though I must ask, how did you know about our neural network's crystal sensitivity?" Steele allowed herself a grim smile behind her helmet. We've been fighting the swarm longer than you know. Learn their patterns. They don't just adapt to enemy weapons. They try to adapt to enemy strengths. Turn them against their users. But sometimes, that makes them vulnerable. She gave the signal. The resonator charges activated, sending out waves of sonic energy at precisely calculated frequencies. The crystal-infused swarm warriors began to shatter, their borrowed armor becoming their doom. Through her tactical display, Steele watched as similar scenes played out across the planet. Human strike teams systematically destroying swarm ground forces with ruthless efficiency. "Captain," Jin called out, "new contact. Something big coming up from the main hive." The ground trembled as a massive form burst from the ruins. A swarm queen, its body a horrific fusion of crystal and kitten. It towered above them, multiple limbs ending in crystalline blades that sparkled in the firelight. "Well," Steele said, activating her power armor's combat protocols, "looks like we found the local management." "Jin," signaled the fleet, "tell them we've got eyes on the primary target." And she raised her plasma cannon, its core beginning to glow. "Tell them we're about to make a mess." The queen screeched, a sound that shattered nearby crystal structures. Steele's team moved into formation, their weapons charging. Above them, orbital strike cannons adjusted their aim, ready to support the ground assault. This was humanity's response to the galaxy's cry for help, not with diplomacy, not with caution, but with the full, terrible knowledge of how to wage war against the nightmare that was the swarm. The battle for Crystallos had entered its final phase, and the stars themselves would bear witness to its conclusion. Ambassador Soren Frost walked through the reconstructed halls of the Tellurian High Council, his steps echoing against the newly grown crystal architecture. 6 months had passed since humanity's intervention, and already Crystallos showed signs of rebirth. Where swarm hives had once corrupted the landscape, gardens of crystalline flowers now bloomed. "The recovery exceeds our most optimistic projections," First Speaker Nixis said, floating beside him. Her crystalline form gleamed brighter now, free from the shadow of war, though some still questioned the price. Frost understood her meaning. The battle's final hours had been devastating. When Guardian Captain Steele's team had engaged the Queen, humanity's true military doctrine had been revealed. The orbital strikes had carved massive canyons into the planet's surface, transforming entire regions into glass. The Queen's death had been spectacular and terrifying. "Your people are troubled by our methods," Frost observed, stopping at a viewport overlooking the capital. "They think us brutal." "Some do," Nixis admitted. "Our neural network ripples with debate. We are a peaceful species, Ambassador. The level of destruction your forces unleash, it challenges our understanding of necessity. Yet you've accepted our proposal for a permanent military presence in your system, because we understand now what lies in the darkness between stars." Nix's form pulsed with complex emotions. The swarm was not an isolated threat. There are more horrors in this galaxy than our philosophy had prepared us for. They reached the newly constructed Memorial Garden, where crystalline monuments held the names of those lost in the war. At its center stood a unique structure, a fusion of Tellurian crystal and human steel, representing their unprecedented alliance. "The Defense Council meets tomorrow," Nixis said. "They will formally approve the joint military training program. Our young ones will learn your ways of war, though it pains many to accept this necessity." Frost nodded, his expression thoughtful. "And we will learn from you as well. Your crystalline technology, your neural networks. Properly militarized, they could revolutionize our combat systems. And that's what troubles some of our philosophers most," Nixis replied. "Not that humanity saved us, but that we might become more like you." "Not like us," Frost corrected, "but stronger. Ready. The galaxy is not the peaceful expanse your people imagined. The swarm taught you that, but humanity can teach you how to survive it." Above them, human warships patrolled alongside newly commissioned Tellurian vessels. The new ships were beautiful yet terrible, crystalline structures reinforced with human battle steel, neural networks integrated with military targeting systems. They represented something unprecedented: the marriage of Tellurian wisdom with humanity's mastery of warfare. There are rumors, Nyxus said carefully, about why humanity was so prepared for the swarm, about why you responded to our beacon so quickly. Frost's expression remained neutral. The galaxy is vast. First speaker. The swarm is not the first threat humanity has faced, nor will it be the last. We learned long ago that peace is not a natural state. It must be protected. Sometimes with beauty, he gestured to the crystal gardens, and sometimes with steel. As night fell over Crystallos, its crystalline spires now cast shadows alongside orbital defense platforms. The planet had changed, as had its people. They had called out into the darkness, and humanity had answered, bringing with them not just salvation, but transformation. In the depths of space, other threats stirred, other horrors waited. But now, when the galaxy cried for aid, it would hear a new response, not just humanity's steel, but the combined might of a civilization that had learned to balance peace with the necessity of war. The Tellurians had survived, evolved, and joined a larger community among the stars. And humanity, in teaching them the art of war, had gained allies who could help them protect the fragile light of civilization in a universe that constantly threatened to extinguish it. In the end, that was perhaps the greatest victory of all.